When I started this channel years ago, one of my very first reviews was of the iRig Pre. It was a device that allowed you to plug an XLR microphone into your phone or camera. Well, a little while ago, IK Multimedia actually came out with a second edition, the iRig Pre 2. And if audio devices are anything like movies, this sequel is going to be so much better than the original. I'm obviously just messing with you. Sequels, when it comes to movies, are rarely better than the original. However, I do have a pretty good feeling that the iRig Pre 2 is going to be better than the original iRig Pre. And I thought it'd be fun to review a new edition of a device that I had previously reviewed. It's like a little nostalgic. Looking at the iRig Pre 2, I'm getting a little emotional. But for real, do not watch that original review. That thing is trash. I was so awkward. It was awful. But anyway, the IK Multimedia iRig Pre 2 usually goes for about $60. However, right now, currently, it's actually going for $40. But just for the sake of complete transparency, this review is not sponsored at all. IK Multimedia did not send this device to me. In fact, this video is brought to you by the lovely members that have clicked that join button for the audio hotline. Their monthly subscriptions have helped me get new equipment into the studio, and it's been insanely helpful, so thank you to everyone that has joined. But today in this iRig Pre 2 review, I mostly just want to try out a few different microphones for it, some dynamic microphones, some gain-hungry microphones like the SM7b, and of course some condenser microphones, and just see how it performs. On top of that, I also do want to plug it into a phone, a laptop, a camera, a bunch of stuff. Anything you can plug this into, I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna plug it in. But you've actually been listening to the iRig Pre 2 going into my iPhone 12 Pro this whole time. And this microphone is the Electro Voice ND96. This is a dynamic microphone. I do not have phantom power engaged. Currently, I have this set to about 65% gain. It's going into my phone and recording in the iRig Recorder app. Usually at this point in the review, I'll go through a few different sections, but in this one, it kind of makes sense to combine them all. So actually, I'm just going to briefly talk about what comes with the iRig Pre 2, the features of it, and the specifications. Now, if you decide to purchase the IK Multimedia iRig Pre 2, it will come with 2 AA batteries. It will come with a Velcro hook and loop strip. This will allow you to mount the device to a microphone stand, a tripod, or whatever you want. This comes with some documentation as well as a limited 1-year warranty. And of course, it comes with the ultra-compact XLR microphone interface, the iRig Pre 2. On the actual iRig Pre 2, there is a permanently attached 3.5mm cable. Now, speaking of the permanently attached cable, it is a TRRS connection. However, this device will actually auto-select whether it needs to use TRS or TRRS. So you don't need to worry about getting any additional adapters, unless you're using an iPhone. On the bottom of the device is where you will find your XLR input. On the left side of the device, there is a gain knob as well as a switch that allows you to go between off, on, and engaging 48 volts of phantom power. Associated with that switch, there are 2 lights on the front of the iRig Pre 2. When the device is just on without 48 volts of phantom power, the light will be green. When 48 volts of phantom power is engaged, both lights will be on, a red one and a green one. On the right side of the device, it allows you to switch between on and off direct monitoring, and then it also has a volume knob so you can adjust how loud you want your headphones. And speaking of headphones, on the top of the device next to the permanently attached 3.5mm cable, there is a 3.5mm headphone jack. On the back of the device is where you will find your Velcro strap, which is actually attached to the battery door, and that's where you will put your AA batteries. Now, when it comes to the specs of the iRig Pre 2, this has a frequency response of 20 Hz to 20 kHz, a total harmonic distortion plus noise of -90 dBA, or 0.003%. When this device is set at its minimum gain, it has an equivalent input noise of -113.5 dBA, and when it's set at its max gain, it has an equivalent input noise of -92.4 dBA. Now, this has a gain/trim range of 48 decibels. As somewhat mentioned before, this does take 2 AA batteries, and it does have an approximate battery life of 20 hours when phantom power is off. However, it has a battery life of 7 hours when phantom power is on. And the iRig Pre 2 is compatible with macOS, Windows, iOS, iPadOS, and Android. Now, really briefly, before we move on, the other thing that I want to mention that I think is so cool is that this device can auto sense whether it needs a TRS or TRRS connection. Now, certain devices that you plug this into are going to require certain things. And for most devices and most things, you actually just have to get an adapter. So for instance, with this being a TRRS connection, I would usually have to get a TRS adapter to be able to plug it into my camera. But then I'd have to take that adapter off if I wanted to plug it into my phone. I mean, with the iPhone, I still have to use an adapter anyway, so cool. But that one's a 3.5mm to lightning adapter, and if you do have an iPhone and you plan to get this, plan on getting that adapter. But I think it is a really awesome feature that it can auto sense what kind of connection it needs. Well, now that we've gotten all the fluffy fluff stuff out of the way, now let's go ahead and start testing the iRig Pre out with some different microphones and different devices. During this review, some of you may have been thinking like, hey, why would I need to get the iRig Pre 2 if I'm using a dynamic microphone and I don't need phantom power? Why wouldn't I get just an XLR to 3.5mm cable like this, and then just use the gain from the device to drive the microphone? Well, let's do a couple quick tests and let's see if we can get a much cleaner signal with the iRig Pre 2, and maybe that would be your answer. If you can get a much cleaner signal, a much better signal, then maybe go with the iRig Pre 2, but if we're getting about the same thing and you have a dynamic microphone, maybe an XLR to 3.5mm cable is just as good. But right now, you've been listening to the XM8500. It's basically a $20 microphone going directly into the iRig Pre. No phantom power engaged, of course, because this is a dynamic microphone. And I do have the gain set at about 70% on the Pre 2. And with that, I'm hitting about negative 12 decibels on my peaks. So now I'm going to plug the XM8500 directly into my Canon R5. Then I'll turn the microphone preamp gain up on the Canon R5 till it matches negative 12 decibels. And we'll see which one sounds a little bit better. Now I'm hitting negative 12 decibels on my meter with the XLR to 3.5mm cable going directly into my Canon R5. On the gain setting on the Canon R5, I was actually a little bit surprised. It's only at 50%, but that doesn't necessarily mean it's the cleanest signal. So once again, this is the XLR to 3.5mm cable. Now we'll go ahead and move back to the iRig Pre 2. And now just as another quick test, let's listen to the noise floor levels with each of those gain settings with the iRig Pre 2 and the XLR to 3.5mm cable. We'll start with the iRig Pre 2 and then switch over to the cable. Now we're going to move on to the iPhone 12 Pro and do a similar test with that. Now we have the XM8500 plugged back into the iRig Pre 2, and we are recording into the iRig Recorder app using a 3.5mm to lightning adapter. Once again, I'm trying to hit about negative 12 decibels, and I'll try to match that exact level with the XLR to 3.5mm cable. But this is a $20 microphone going into a currently $40 iRig Pre 2, so this is the sound that you can get for $60. But now let's go ahead and switch over to the XLR to 3.5mm cable. I did something dumb. The other day when I was shooting this part, it turned into like just amateur hour, you know? I have the XLR to 3.5mm cable going into my iPhone 12 Pro, but the other day I got so used to the fact that the iRig Pre automatically switches between TRS to TRRS. So this guy, this dummy, forgot to plug in the little TRS to TRRS adapter. But now I have it right, and if you do want to plug in a dynamic microphone like this into your phone directly, you will need to get one of those adapters. I'll link one down below. But this whole little conundrum, this whole little situation I had just made me realize how incredibly nice it is that the iRig Pre 2 will auto switch between TRS and TRRS depending on what the device needs. I mean, that's the difference between me actually having a usable take and not. But now that I have this plugged in correctly, I'm going to do a real quick noise floor level test between the iRig Pre 2 and just the XLR to 3.5mm cable. I'll go ahead and kick it off with the iRig Pre 2 noise floor level, and then we'll switch over to this. Now we have a short condenser shotgun microphone plugged into the iRig Pre 2. The iRig Pre 2 is going directly into the Canon R5, and the iRig Pre 2 is set at about 50% gain right now. The microphone plugged in is the Audio-Technica AT875R. It's currently mounted just right overhead, probably about 7 inches away. This is a somewhat budget-friendly microphone. This goes for $169. I mean, yeah, that isn't super cheap, but actually, this microphone does have quite a few fans. I mean, even just in my subscriber base, I constantly get requests to review this microphone because people like it a lot and they want me to experience the love that they have for it. Now I'm actually recording this video on my iPhone 12 Pro in the iRig Recorder app. So yeah, you can actually record video and audio inside this app, which is really nice. It makes getting your settings correct for your iRig recorder even better. You can manage the headphone volume and gain and what sample rate you want and everything, and you can adjust whether you want 1080p or 4K. But as you can see, I am holding the Shure SM7b, which is going into the iRig Pre 2. Yes, the iRig Pre 2 is pretty much maxed out. I don't think that a lot of people are going to be getting this and planning to use the SM7b, but I could be wrong. But you can't always use like an inline preamp, mic booster, whatever you want to call it, like a cloud lifter or a FET head. Devices like that do require 48 volts of phantom power, but hey, you got it in the iRig Pre 2, so you'd be good to go if you wanted to podcast on the go with the SM7b. Just for the sake of being completely thorough, let's plug in a mic booster. Let's do it. Now we have the Triton FET head plugged in, 48 volts of phantom power engaged on the iRig Pre 2, and here's how it sounds at 40% gain. This microphone is the Neat Worker B2. It is plugged into the iRig Pre 2. The two twos. The two and the two. The two twos. Okay. 48 volts of phantom power is engaged on the iRig Pre 2 since this microphone does require that, but I wanted to plug in somewhat of an inexpensive condenser microphone like this. Right now I believe the Worker B2 goes for around $100, but here's just a really quick example of the iRig Pre 2 and a $100 condenser microphone. What I decided to do was pull out the Sony ZV-1 because I was thinking a lot of people that would be interested in the iRig Pre 2 might have the Sony ZV-1, and that's maybe where they want to step up their audio game. So I am using the Sony ZV-1 right now, the very popular YouTuber vlogging camera, and I do have the iRig Pre 2 plugged into it, and I do have the microphone preamps turned all the way down in the ZV-1. Now we have the RØDE NTG1, not to be confused with the non-XLR video mic NTG. Oh, it's gonna get dark. Oh, it's dark. But hey, I actually have the iRig Pre 2 just velcroed right onto my tripod, no problem. It doesn't really add a whole lot of weight. The XLR cable can be a little inconvenient, so I just have like a 1-footer on there right now. I mean, it's doable. I probably wouldn't recommend it though. Look at those cute little kitties cuddling. Oh my gosh, they love each other so much. Oh, I wish that they loved me as much as they love each other, but honestly, it's not even close. It's unfair. Well, since this isn't a microphone review and we don't really get to do a kitty purr test, I'm at least going to put this device in front of one of my cats and let them decide if they like it. Let's do a quick kitty review. Hey buddy, do you have time if I ask you a couple questions? First of all, how do you feel about this thing? Huh? What if I told you it did 48 volts of phantom power and you could plug it into your phone? Huh? You got a phone. Got it for you in case of emergencies. Okay, but what if I told you it did this? What if I told you it... is this a like... Do you like it or hate it? I'm not really sure. You're so fluffy. Oh my goodness. He is interested. I will say that. So, I'm going to say it passed the cat review. It seems good. Seems good. Okay, let's keep playing. This is fun now. Well, now that we've talked about the basics, the features, the specs, we tested out the iRig Pre 2 with a bunch of different devices and microphones. Now I'm going to go ahead and give you my review, my opinion of the IK Multimedia's iRig Pre 2. And just to let you know, I am using the RØDE Broadcaster right now, and it is a condenser microphone. I'm of course still using the iRig Pre, and I am going into the iRig Recorder app on my iPhone 12 Pro. Even during the review section, it's still kind of a test. Getting this anywhere from $40 to $60, I still do think that that is a good price point for a device like this. And the reason that I say that is that a lot of your really inexpensive interfaces like the Behringer UM2 still goes for about $60, but you don't get the portability with something like that. If what you are looking for is portability and the ability to just effortlessly plug into your phone and use your phone quite often, then I think the iRig Pre 2 is a great choice. And I would say that a lot of people that don't need that portability, they're going to be in like a controlled studio environment, I would say save up a little bit more money, go for the audio interface. Now, if you already have an audio interface and you just want the portability to get a little bit cleaner audio on the go, I think it's a great option for that. I absolutely do love having this device around, and I have used it in actually quite a few different situations, and it's been extremely helpful. I'm not saying people are looking to get this instead of an audio interface, but I am just saying that I don't think that's necessarily the best idea. If you can go with the audio interface, I would say do that. I do think another person this could be really good for is kind of more of your YouTuber filmmaker type of person that is going to be using an actual camera. I might get in trouble if I don't call the iPhone an actual camera, but what I mean is like a mirrorless DSLR style camera. Mirrorless and DSLR cameras don't really have good microphone preamps at all. So having the iRig Pre 2 be the device that's actually pushing your microphone's gain, I think is a great option. And if you are going to get this to plug into your camera, I would recommend just turning your camera preamps all the way down as low as you can. Have this do all the heavy lifting and you will get a better result. Aside from build quality not being amazing, I do think this is a great addition for a camera setup or people that just need the portability. But the fact that this can supply phantom power, give your microphones a decent amount of gain, has a headphone jack for direct monitoring, and a switch for direct monitoring. It can give you 20 hours of battery life, and it can auto-detect whether it needs a TRRS or TRRS connection. I think that all of those capabilities just crammed into this tiny little device is really cool. Is it the absolute best sounding thing? No, it's not. Should it be for its price point? No, but I think it does a very good job for what it is. The only other note that I want to say that's not really a con, especially right now, like I mentioned before, the iRig Pre 2 is going for $40. I think that is an insane price point for this. I think it's great. Now, like I said before, when it's at $60 and you can get some audio interfaces, some beginner cheap audio interfaces at $60, I'm not as happy with that $60 price point as I am it being $50 to $40. And that might not seem like a big price difference, but $10 off on a $60 product is a pretty big deal. And $20 off a $60 product is a very big deal. That's 33% of the price. So if you need a device like the iRig Pre 2 and it does what you need it to, and you can get it for around $40 to $50, I would say go for it. Now, me being the audio lover that I am, and sometimes, occasionally, buying devices that I don't necessarily need, if you're like me and you do that occasionally, at least make sure you get it for the $40. But overall, I think this is a good product. It's a fun product to use. I love the portability. I love the compatibility with different devices. It's fun. But the grade that I give the iRig Pre 2 when it's at $40 is an A. Now, the grade that I give the iRig Pre 2 when it's at $60 is a B. Thank you all for watching this review of the iRig Pre 2. I hope it helped you out, helped you decide whether you want to get one of these or not. But most of all, I hope you had fun. Stay tuned for a lot more reviews and comparisons, some tutorials. I've been doing a lot of live streams recently. Hit subscribe if you want to check some of that stuff out. Thank you to everyone that subscribes to the Audio Hotline, and a very big thank you to everyone that made this video possible, all of my lovely members. If you want to become a member of the Audio Hotline, go ahead and click that join button. There are different tiers you can check out. This has been the Audio Hotline. I'm Bronson, and I'll see you audio nerds next time.